In 2024, for the past 12 months, I made one game every single month, while changing the genre of each game, just so that I can learn how to make games. Before I begin with the games, a little backstory first. I discovered YouTube game dev during the pandemic. I used to think that if you want to make a game, you need some giant team of people and many years of production. But then I found that people are making games in 24 hours alone. But obviously the difference between quality, that sets these games apart. But I thought, you know what, I can do this too. I quickly picked up a game engine and put it down just as fast. At the time I tried learning game dev in Unity but failed to get any progress done because I was still in high school at the time, so I put the game dev dream to rest. After some time, it was November 2023, about 2 years since I touched a game engine, no did. But this time I wasn't going back to Unity because it couldn't run fast enough on my potato laptop. I mean, it used to take like 20 minutes just to open a project. So I had to switch to something more lightweight, and Godot was the best choice at the time for me. I started learning the game engine by watching Heartbeat's tutorials and copying them word for word and made my own projects, but I never finished any of his tutorial series, unfortunately. But hey, I wasn't making my own games, I was just making Heartbeast's game in my own laptop. So I bid my master Heartbeast farewell and set out on a quest that would decide my future as a game dev. It was January 2024, it was the time to make my first game. I joined the Godot World Jam with hopes of finishing a game for the first time. I chose the so-called easiest genre, which is platformers. Well, making a platformer is pretty easy, you just make a guy and make him jump or something and run, but making a good platformer is what is difficult. There is so much under the hood in these games. So I partnered up with my friend who made the art and he made a game called Virus Overload. It's a platformer game where your computer has been overrun with viruses, so you have to enter each file collecting shields to end the virus. Well, bad news, we failed to finish the game because we ended up overscoping the game and the files got corrupted. Because the laptop I had at the time had a problem where it would just randomly shut down. It decided on how long I would work on the game because when it goes off, it won't just turn on when you turn it back on. It decides when it turns on, so if you try to turn it on, it will just remain off. In February I got a new laptop, this time a much stronger laptop, but with a 40 battery because I bought it off Facebook Marketplace from some shady dude, but hey, I don't care. I joined the mini game jam, but this time I went in solo. I made a game called Sword and Shield. It's a game where you play as two knights, one with a sword, the other with a shield. You have to protect a castle from a bunch of goblins. The main mechanic is you can't hit the enemy that does damage to you. So the sword knight can only hit the green goblin, which does damage to the shield knight only, while the shield knight can only deal damage to the red goblin, which can only deal damage to the sword knight, making it in a way where you're each other's hero. Explaining the mechanic is a bit confusing, but don't worry if you don't get it. I actually managed to finish this game and submitted it for the mini game jam, and it ended up at 18th place, which is much better than I expected. March is where this challenge took a drastic twist because my country's electricity supply company said that we only have electricity for 12 hours a day. That was outrageous at the time, but hey, things can't get any worse from here, right? So in March, I switched the genre over to top-down shooter games and made my own top-down shooter game. I failed to finish it in time because I spent too much time trying to make the enemy AI work. It was called Architect, and the most impressive thing about the game I have to show is this cover art I made for it. April came by and I decided to start my own YouTube channel and posted my first ever video, which didn't do too bad for a guy with 4 subscribers at the time. I then tried to make a game from one of my favorite genres, tower defense. I didn't know anything about making this type of game at all, and I was stuck in a state called tutorial hell. This is when you can't do something you are trying to learn without a tutorial. So I made a game from a tutorial I copied, and when I tried to add my own features to the game, it would break. So eventually I abandoned the project. In May, the electrical company said that we only have electricity for 8 hours a day only. I then had to escape tutorial hell by learning how to code by writing stuff down and trying things on my own. I then made a hill climb racing clone from this tutorial I watched, and this time because I understood what I was doing, I managed to add my own features to the game, but the Grim Reaper of Godot arrived and ended the production of the game. This is an error message called missing dependencies. I won't talk too much about it because I made a video about it and I don't know what causes it till this day forward. And now I use something called version control, which allows you to go back to a version of the game you made previously. So make sure to back up your important files, guys. In June, I stepped away from all the violence and wanted to make a cozy game, because that should be a relaxing experience, right? Right? I made a game where you only have to cut grass, because why mow the lawn in real life when you can do it in a game? So I made a game about cutting grass and learned about how powerful shaders are. I mean, look at this. Look what it's doing to this grass right now. I started to go insane from how many bugs the game was getting, so I finished the project and published it. After a few weeks, I added the godot skin to the game to practice visual effects. I made a video about it, but we don't talk about that video. It's in the depths of YouTube because it flopped hard. Then in July, I had to make a game that wouldn't take too much time because the next month was the biggest game jam in the world. I made this penalty shooter game where you have to guess a side to shoot and try to score as many goals as possible without the keeper catching it. I learned how to make a simple logic system, so the game was pretty cool. In August, I partnered up with the same friend I partnered up with in January to try and redeem ourselves for that game we made in January. We made a game for the GMTK Game Jam, a game jam with over 30,000 participants who joined it. My friend worked on the art and I did the rest. Made a platformer game where the player gets bigger as time goes by, so you have to speed your way out of each level before you become too big. We called the game Antoine because it's about an ant, and yeah, it's about an ant. We managed to make cutscenes for the game and managed to finish it in time. Because we only had electricity for 12 hours a day, I had to make the game in a cafe and spent all the money I had on coffee, because these cafe prices and coffee prices are just crazy nowadays. It's just insane. The game won at an overall number of 1,895 out of a total of 7,000 game entries. So yeah, another win for the boys. After making this game, I felt a drastic improvement in my game making skills. The electricity situation kept on getting worse. I moved from 12 hours of power a day to 8 hours, then 6 hours, then 4 hours, then we reached 2 hours of electricity a day. I couldn't even play games anymore because there's not much you can do in 2 hours of game development. So I had to put playing games on a hold and went full on game dev mode. To have 24 hours worth of game dev work, I would have to work 2 hours every day for 12 days, and electricity used to come at awkward times like 2 AM or 3 AM. I mean, who is awake at that time? This had completely destroyed my sleep schedule. So in September, I decided to make a game inspired from a movie I watched at the time called Fury. You play as a tank that can shoot explosive shells, and the main gimmick is that you manually reload the tank, just like how in Endoparasitic you have to reload your revolver manually. I didn't manage to finish this game because I spent 48 hours trying to make it, and I had to release the video before the month ends. And by 48 hours, I don't mean like 2 days, I mean 24 days of constantly waking up at midnight or lunchtime to make this game only. At this time, I felt like giving up because of the 2 hours a day electricity thing, but the YouTube comments and the likes kept me going, and that's one of the reasons I joined YouTube, so that I can have something that pushes me to continue doing what I do best, and that marked the end of September. In October, I knew that if I was going to finish a game, I was going to have to reduce the scope of the game. So in October, the situation improved from 2 hours to 4 hours of electricity, but I divided the time into 2. So 2 hours for playing games and 2 hours for making games. But at times I would get carried away playing games for too long, so I would have to make up for that time the next day. I made a game inspired from a game I used to play called G-Switch. I so used shapes instead of pixel art to make this game to speed up the process. I managed to finish the game and published it to itch.io. This game works on mobile too, so you can play it on your phone if you want to. I made this game in 24 hours of work or 12 days in total. In November, the electricity situation went back to the 2-hour schedule, and the electricity company didn't keep that part of the deal and sometimes used to give us electricity every after 2 days for 2 hours only. And I tried making a cafe game using arrays and dictionaries, but with how we barely had electricity the whole month, I couldn't finish it, and this is why I have to show for it. You can order something and make it in the kitchen. I did make a video about this because I spend hours editing, but you can't edit a video if you don't have electricity, so yeah, that's what happened. We move on to the last month of the game dev journey, December. For December, I wanted to go out with a bang, so I poured all the money I had into going to the cafe to make this game. I stayed at the cafe for about 5 hours plus a day just developing this game. It was an endless runner game. You play as Santa on a sleigh delivering gifts to houses. Simple enough. On your way, you have to dodge enemies as the game gets progressively faster. I made the Santa movement using procedural animation I added a power up to the game and 3 enemies. In the video before this, I said that I would add skins to the game if this video gets more than 20 likes, and here you go. We have a John Wick skin, a dragon, Krampus, and a capybara. You unlock the skins by increasing your high score, so if you have like 400 high score points, you unlock John Wick. So on 600, the other one, yeah, you get the thing. Leave a comment if you think I should make a video on how I made the skins. So with 12 months gone by, I feel like I'm not limited by my skill set anymore, but only by my imagination, because I know that with enough work I can make whatever I set my mind to. I'll start university in February studying, you guessed it, computer science. So yeah, expect more content even though this challenge is done. Thank you to everyone who has been part of this challenge. Thanks for the support. I'm sure I've given up if you didn't like or comment or subscribe to my video, so thanks again for just even watching. It's been an honor working with you. Like the video if you liked it, dislike if you didn't. Stay safe, friend, and don't you dare go hollow. Goodbye. Should make an outro. After some time, it was November 2023, about 2 years since I touched a game engine. No, did you? But this